In the gym and in the car, with our advice you could go far. We fuck things up and we make mistakes, and talk about our sexy dates. We host events and go to clubs, but most of all we're still in love. It's getting hard for this to rhyme, just as well 'cause it's bed hopping time.
Hello and welcome to the Bed Hoppers podcast. My name is Mr. H.
I'm Mrs. H.
Thank you for joining us today. We have got just the numbers for you because we have been doing some research.
You've been doing some research.
Well, yes, I've done a vague amount of research and got some data, and we're going to talk about it in this episode. But before we do that, on the day that this comes out, there is still 5 or 6 days to go before our Manchester social event.
18th and 19th of April.
Right. You can come along to that. All you need to do is grab your tickets, go to the link that's in the podcast, and it'll take you there, and you can pick your tickets up, and then you can come along and have an awesome time.
We'll be there.
You can mix, you can mingle, you can socialise, you can meet new people. It's going to be awesome. That's pretty much what mingle means, I suppose.
Yeah, you've pretty much given a dictionary definition of mingle.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's going to be really great. Really looking forward to it. We won't dwell on selling it for too much because it's only like 5 days away. So you better get your tickets now. If you find yourself free, come along. It's going to be really, really cool.
Mingle is also a chocolate bar here.
Is it? What's a mingle?
It's like a minty, pyramid-y type bar of chocolate with a mint centre. Mingles.
Oh, there we go. It sounds like dingles. Do you remember?
I don't know if they're like synonymous with mixing with people, but they're called mingles.
All right. Do you remember Dingles, the shop?
No.
Was that
yes.
Yeah, like it was sort of like a upmarket Debenhams.
Dingles and Jollies.
I don't remember Jollies. I remember Dingles. There was one in Plymouth where I grew up.
Oh, gosh, our age.
Oh, we are now. But I remember my mother going, I'm going to just go to Dingles and Dingles, Debenhams, and like spending like 5 hours just going around.
Like a stag or like some kind of animal representing their logo.
Maybe. I don't really remember. I remember, so John Lewis wasn't really a thing where I was from.
Too posh.
It was a bit, well, maybe too posh. Well, is Dingles more posh than John Lewis? Who knows? We'll have that debate maybe perhaps another time. But I do remember my mum going, I'm just going to go down to Dingles and then I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And then you just like spend your whole time in a shop forever.
Most Debenhams are derelict and skateboard ramps.
Yeah, some of them, like Brizzles, I believe, is a skate park.
They've been like taken over by the skate community.
I know, right. Enough of such nonsense. Yeah, Mingles, Pringles, Dingles.
Department stores and chocolate.
All of the things. Let's talk about data. So I had an idea, and that's often a dangerous thing. I wanted to find out about some of the communities that we're sort of in at the moment, some of the chat groups that we're in, and some of the sort of wider swinging community. Now, I like a little bit of data.
You do.
I do like a bit of data. It's important. So I thought if I pulled together a survey with the help and input of some friends, so thank you if you helped and supported us on that, I'd pull together a quick survey, knock it out, send it out to our Discord, to a few other groups as well, Instagram, a couple other places, and just get a good fistful of results.
A fistful of results.
And not only will it give us something to talk about, it also might give us some idea about the swinging communities that are out there at the moment and see where people's heads are at. So,
how big was the survey?
Well, like, I don't know, 12 questions maybe?
That's what I was asking,
Yeah. Well, I'd like a few pages. Well, you could be asking how many people responded. And I can tell you that at the time of us recording this, 85 people have responded. Now, it's possible that I may well open this survey up and push it out there to X or Twitter and some other platforms. But for now, I thought that gives us enough to talk about this and talk about some of the responses, some of the things that people have said, and really just talk about data.
Cool.
Right? Not the guy from Star Trek, although I would love that. If we could have Brent Spiner on next week, I'd be all right with it. We can talk Independence Day. That was good. And the Star Trek stuff. I don't know what else he's done. I don't really recall it. But, I'm sure he's pretty good. Yeah. And then he'll eventually take us to Patrick Stewart, which eventually leads us to the Patrick Stewart and McKellen combo.
Yes.
But I suspect they are too busy filming Marvel films at the moment. Anyways, right. So we asked people, where do they live? And 96.5% of the people lived in the UK, which is good because we were mostly aiming at people in the UK. We gave them the option to sort of muck around with that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not going to sort of cross-reference the data too much. It's, I've only got so many hours in the day, but I thought it'd be interesting to go through it. Other options included Europe, Australia, and the United States of America, and each one of those pretty much got around 1% or so. So not masses from other countries responding, but that's okay.
Okay. So this is the Brits.
This
really.
is mostly the UK. We can't just say British.
Yeah.
The wider than that, but it's the UK. So then I asked people, how long have they been ethically non-monogamous, right? Mm-hmm. So 7% were less than 6 months. So, not too many new people. 6 months to a year was 11%.
Right.
1 to 3 years was 45%.
Ooh, big jump.
And more than 3 years was 36%. So what we're talking about is the majority of people are in the 0 to 3 year space.
Interesting, because the pandemic was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty much this month.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people were in that.
Yeah.
Just started it after then or talked about it and eventually came into the lifestyle or the swinging.
That's really
stuff.
interesting that a lot of people actually started their journey during a very difficult, socially distant time.
Yeah, and I want to say, actually, and I appreciate that good data would involve a much bigger sample and would involve people from other communities and spreading this around as much as we possibly can. But we wanted to do a bit of a quick, short, snappy look at this type of stuff. Yeah. And this was the best way. So this, if you wear your sort of bedhopper and wider communities in the UK, that'll help you kind of get to grips with data. So we asked, if you're with a partner, who initiated the conversation about swinging?
This is an interesting one.
So we had the option, right, was both, male, female, and then there was another one that people seem to have put in there. So lots of people have gone with other and given their own explanation, which is delightful.
Okay.
But 39.5% said the female started the conversation.
Oh, I thought it'd be higher.
Which, than 39.5?
Maybe.
Well, the males were at 27.9.
Oh, okay.
So
if the females is higher, then
so I think that's an interesting one, because a lot of people that we speak to, it's often the men that bring it up. But what I would say, it's often the most successful relationships have been the ones where the female have started. I've got to say this, I'm contractually obliged because you were the one that brought this up.
Do you think that it's predominantly women that's generated the discussion because lots of women want to try the bi, or they're curious about trying, to open up their relationship with a woman?
I think so. I think that may be one of the big drivers of it. Of course, the remainder of it is a mix of things, but most of it being both of us.
Okay.
Sort of discussing it at exactly the same time.
Exactly
I'm not entirely sure how that works.
Oh, you mean like they're watching a film one day and they both go,
turn around, Zowies, let's do this thing. Have you thought about it? And they say that at the exact same time. So I think always someone will have done it first or brought it up.
Right, it's like chicken and egg, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think what they're suggesting, and I'm reading into this, maybe extrapolating more than I actually am, that what they're saying is that they had a conversation about it together.
Yes.
They worked as a team. It's like, there is no I in this team. It is only me,
maybe
we, or whatever it is. So yeah, TM. So I think this is this shows to me that it's a lot of women that are bringing this up. Slightly less men. Some people were single, so they brought it up themselves. So well done, well done you for whichever way round you've done it. And interestingly, some people have filled it in, because of course people do. Some have filled it in as a single person and some have filled it in as a couple. So there's all sorts of random bits of data. So I think we've just got to go with the majority, right? Mm-hmm. So how old were you when you started swinging? What do you think was the most popular age group?
And I'm assuming you've got brackets to choose from here.
So 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, older than 50s.
I am going to say 30s.
Well, it's the right answer. The survey says, no, it doesn't. It goes, bing. I don't know what the right noise is. It is.
It's like family fortune.
It is. 50% of people started in their 30s, with 34% in their 40s, only 8% in their 20s, and 7% in their 50s. So no one responded older than their 50s, which was interesting. So it seems to be...
Okay, do you think that's maybe because people in their 20s may not be in an established relationship long enough to bring up the subject of ethical non-monogamy with a partner? Maybe they already have different partners, or they've not been together for long enough to explore that because of the age demographic?
I think, it could be the maturity in general. It could be maturity of relationship. It could be that they've, for example, only just gotten out of the phase of sleeping around in
That's
their...
what I mean.
Yeah, they're still in that space and they're settling down. So the want to go out and have sex with lots of the people may not necessarily be there.
And they may do it already, but just don't call it E&M.
Yeah, welcome to Mr. and Mrs. H make sweeping generalizations about things they don't know about.
No, we've caveated this heavily with saying that we know that this is a very broad cut of some data.
Yeah, I think it's to do with established relationships. And I think particularly in the 40s, I think seeing like a big trend towards that is it's not midlife crisis necessarily, but it is that we're established, we're comfortable with each other, we know we're not going to run off. Let's try something fun and exciting.
But also you have, there is a bit of a propensity, I think, for once you come out of your 30s and you go into your 40s, you could also be one of those people who has had a marriage that has ended and you're in a new relationship, and maybe your new relationship has a very different slant and you've gone into this very soon after getting into a new relationship together.
Could well be that. That could be something.
We do know some people who fall into that bracket of, well, we both got divorced and we got together and very quickly we realised that, we had some like-minded fantasies maybe.
Yeah, potentially. I think this is all stuff to throw into the mix, absolutely. But my take is that this is really about established relationships and kind of connection and seeking something new and exciting at that point. I also think
kids getting a bit older.
I do wonder if there is something about the let's do it before we get into our 50s.
Oh, hell yeah.
And before
we're young enough to enjoy it.
Exactly. I think
old
there is
enough to have a bit of money to throw at it.
I think the money thing is definitely
the money thing, I think. And I don't know if you've asked any questions about money in there.
I have. We'll come to that shortly.
So I'm not galloping to that. I just mean when you are potentially a little bit older, not many people in their 20s have tons of cash, right?
Yeah.
In fact, no one in any decade has tons of cash right now. But you do maybe have a little bit more put away by the time you're in more of a established relationship. And this costs money.
So, Karen, thinking,
oh God, sex tax.
Sex tax.
Sex taxes.
So my next question, before we go down a tariff route, is are you out to your friends and family? So the options were we're out to everyone.
Yeah.
We're out to select friends and or family, or we're not out at all.
Ooh, I think the people not out at all is quite high.
What's the biggest one?
Not out at all.
Not out at all?
Is it the second one?
It is the we're out to select friends and or family.
People.
So, in fact, 68.3% say that they are out to select friends and family.
What makes me a bit happier, because at least people are able to share something with some people, because I think something like this needs to be sometimes.
Well, interestingly, 3.5% say they're out to everyone. So almost 70%, or that 70% thereabouts, are out in some capacity or other, and 30.2% are not out at all. And that could be that they choose to, but they may choose to. That may be a job thing. It may be that they like the naughty, secret, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more.
They just don't want the hassle of being judged.
Yeah, maybe. All of that stuff. Maybe just explaining it to your mum is all too much. Yeah. Could be that. So, okay. What or which option describes your play style? So this was an interesting one. So, well, I'll just talk through these because I think rather than giving you 20
the realm options, of labels.
Well, and I know that not everyone likes labels and blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to go with 41.9% said they are go with the flow.
Bit of everything.
Yeah, a bit of everything.
Anything and everything.
Now, I put this in there as I was thinking, okay, because I know if I don't put that in there, people are going to be like,
I'll see what happens. Situational.
Yeah. But I think go with the flow can be a bit of a generic, I'll see what happens and see how I'm feeling and see how the moons align. Yeah. But I understand that. I get that. But when you're sort of talking to other couples, just saying that you go with the flow can be a dangerous thing, right? No, you don't know quite what you're going to get out of it unless you've discussed those parameters. So 40.7% said full swap, same room.
Okay,
which I think which is pretty good. 8.1% said we're still figuring it out. Which I think is fair. I think it takes a while to get into the space. And sometimes you kind of start off in one thing and then before you know it, your world has completely changed. So it makes sense to me. and 4.7% were hot wife or hot husbands.
That's possibly a little lower than I expected.
Well, I think you've got to remember also that that is often one part of a dynamic that people have. But I was kind of going, pick one, go on.
Yeah, go on.
Go on, you bastard. Pick one of these things. And 2.3%, interestingly, said full swap but separate room. The separate room thing hasn't come up a massive amount, and it's quite interesting.
Separate room. So does that mean separate play, like as in, do you think that means going their own way or going to a house party and just going in different rooms and crossing a threshold, dare I say?
Well, I think I think the threshold element does come into it. Are you in a different room? Yes, therefore that's fine. They're happy with that. But the whole concept is that they're not in front of each other and they're doing their thing. So I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
It's quite interesting, though. I quite enjoy this. I think what else we got here? Looking for unicorns or single guys is 1.2%.
Okay.
Which I was surprised that was that.
Me too.
That low. But also, I think you've got to remember that this could be slanted significantly by the populaces that we've surveyed here. So that will obviously influence, because if you've got like-minded communities, all very much looking for the same thing and believing the same thing and listening to the podcast or whatever, chances are that's what they're going to be interested in. So what's your favourite way to meet people? So you can guess this one, all right? Yeah. Is it on an app followed by a social? Is it on an app followed by a play date? Is it at a social event, at a club, or at a dogging spot?
Oh, my God. Oh, I think possibly an app followed by a social. Now, I'm also heavily skewed towards thinking maybe at a social.
Okay.
So those would be my two. I haven't quite whittled down which one.
Well, you are pretty much right. So 43% said that they like meeting people at a social event, just as well because we're holding one in a week. But also,
we do like a social.
I love a social event. I like
people do.
The whole fact that you can just network around, meet people, get to know them better,
no pressure,
all that kind of stuff. 25.6% said on an app followed by a social date.
Yeah.
27.9% said at a club, and the remainder said on an app followed by a play date.
That's brave.
No one said at a dogging site.
Yay!
Well, I mean,
no, not when I'm yucking someone's yum, but also that's not a place to meet people, surely.
Yeah.
Well, you can meet people, obviously, but not in that way.
Yeah. So then we ask people, what apps do they use? Now, we get asked all the frigging time, what should I use? Yeah. And, where should I go to find other people, to hook up with other people, et cetera, et cetera.
So was the ability to pick multiple ones?
Well, so I produced a list, an initial list.
Yeah.
And then people had the option to write other.
Okay.
Which may have been not a mistake, but let's go with some of these. So coming in at the top by only one vote, with 69.8% of people, was Swing Hub.
Really?
Yeah. Followed by Fab Swingers.
Oh.
And that was 68.6% chose that. So it's like literally the difference of...
Interesting.
So 16% use Spicy Match.
Okay.
17% use Field.
Yeah.
2.3% use Tinder. No one uses Open. 3.5 use FetLife. 2.3... No, sorry. There's a couple, because where people have written it a couple of times. We are X Killing Kittens comes up at about 5%. And then there's a whole host of things from Pure, Le Boudoir membership. I catch them in the wild like Pokemon. Twitter,
oh my God,
Hinge.
My spirit animal.
One person said Pineapple, 3 Fun, Bumble, Tinder Band, SDC, Love Partners United.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
Red Hot Pie, which is the Australian one, and Cassidy, SDC, FetLife, SZC or SZC. I don't know.
Some international ones.
Some international ones there, definitely. But I think that, the main ones that really you want to be looking at in the UK are going to be Swing Hub, Fab Swingers, Spicy Match, and then Field. Field doesn't, I think that's not an app that we've used for a while.
We had a poor experience with it, but that doesn't mean it's not. That was just a one-off, and it's probably vastly improved. I know a lot of people actually in my vanilla life as well who use Field, who also choose to play the field a little.
Choose to play the field a little bit. Play the field. Well, that's interesting. I think it is a question that comes up relentlessly for us. Like, where do I go? What do I do? So we can say with some data behind us that the best thing to do is go to a social event.
Yeah.
Or go to a club. All right.
Yeah.
But sign up to an app, and those apps should be Swing Hub, Fab Swingers, and Spicy Match and Field.
Oh.
Maybe Field, depending on how you feel or whatever.
Field.
But Swing Hub and Fab Swingers are still the
still
top ones to go with.
Biggest ones, aren't they?
Now, this one was important to me. All right.
Okay.
And I know what the answer is I knew what the answer was going to be from my perspective, but what I hoped. So outside of lifestyle apps, what's your preferred way to stay in touch with people? Is it WhatsApp, Telegram, text, Discord, Kik, Facebook Messenger, TikTok, WhatsApp, but only after you've met and trust them?
Oh, interesting. I would imagine WhatsApp features quite highly. Kik is surely dead in the ground. And if some people do use it, surely it's a minority because it's terrible.
Cannot see a vote for Kik on there.
Good. And then Discord is I think quite a few people do utilise Discord because once they're in some kind of community server, they tend to reach out to people that way. Whether that remains the long term, how we keep in touch. I'm going to vote for WhatsApp.
Okay, so WhatsApp is the clear winner by a long mile.
Yeah.
It is 67.4%.
Yeah.
So most people
move to WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
I would have thought, yeah.
22% use Telegram.
All right.
I debate whether people use that massively, but I know it's popular with certain social groups and certain things.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And Discord come out at 7%.
Yeah.
So I
think that tracks.
And often I think we've found, even within our own Discord, if we're chatting to people and it's becoming a longer conversation, the WhatsApp app is a nicer experience than everything else out there.
And you don't miss anything. I tend to miss messages on other platforms because I don't have alerts for them. So
yeah, I think
I've probably got 20,000 messages and apps that I've never looked at.
I think you probably do. I know you've got WhatsApp messages that you, in fact,
popularity there.
In fact, you've got WhatsApp messages that you have not replied to.
When?
From 3 days ago.
I do?
Yes, you do. I know you do because I'm in the same group chat. Yeah.
Shots fired.
Shots fired and received, apparently.
I mean, fine.
So,
well, I'm still better at responding on that than anything else.
yeah. I mean, it's degrees of success, but let's run with it. Okay. How many play partners might you have in a typical 6-month period? 0 to 3.
Yeah.
3 to 5.
Yeah.
6 to 15. More than 15. And
more than 15.
You think that's going to be the biggest?
What was the second? What was the last but one?
The penultimate one,
yeah.
6 to 15.
All right, let's go with that one.
Okay, in a 6-month period, you reckon people will, on average, have 6 to 15? So
6 months? Come on, it's half a year.
Half a year. But don't forget, people have lives, they have family, they often have children, they often have financial commitments. So, and sometimes they don't want to just go out and bang everyone.
No, fair.
So, no fur. They've shaved as well. So, the biggest number on this one is actually 0 to 3, which is 44.2%. So
0 to 3 in 6 months?
In 6 months.
That's not even one a month.
I don't know why this is such a shock to you.
It's a shock to me, I think. I am genuinely shooketh by this. Okay.
That doesn't mean they're not saying those 3 people like 20 times, 30 times. That could be what's happening here.
I'm just surprised that the majority have it's such a low.
Maybe. So it could be that they don't want to sleep with lots of people. It could be they're not particularly successful at doing so. It could be that they just financially can't commit to that. So I understand all of these are things that can prevent, and life goes on.
I'm surprised.
Okay. But 34.9, so nearly 35% have 3 to 5.
Okay.
6 to 15 is 17.4%. So just over 15% said they'd have between 6 and 15 play partners in a 6-month period. And then 3.5% said they'd have more than 15. I mean, technically, you could do that in one single night.
You really could.
You could.
Go to a good club.
You could just boost the numbers. So, if you're taking part in this
party, an orgy, tick.
Done. Yeah. Oh, shit.
And my whole quota in one night.
I can imagine someone's probably ticked all the boxes there and said, just total them up. But I can't see that on there. So, I also want to know, right, because I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet about this particular
You
one.
often have a bee in your bonnet.
I do, but this particular one, sharing graphic pictures.
Oh.
So I love naughty pictures. I love sexy pictures. I like stuff that's a bit spicy. But when it gets too graphic, I just feel like people are just becoming a bit base for my liking. It doesn't feel great. Now, granted, if you've got an established relationship with people and you're sort of escalating that way. I can sort of understand that working okay, but just sharing it in wider chat groups as a, hey, look at this, just drives me mad. And it really turns me off. In fact, like with some of the groups that we're in, if people are posting those, I would say, extremely graphic pictures, then I'm like, I understand that they enjoy that. I don't like it. Therefore, they are probably not for me because we are not on the same page. And I know that's a snooty way of looking at it, but actually it really drives my behaviour around other people.
Well, coming from Lady Snootington McSnootyson over here as well,
Yeah.
you know I'm probably even more hating on this than you, if that's possible. And in actual fact, it's guaranteed to make me not engage in a group at all. I won't even try. So it's the graphicness. Okay, I can avert my eyes, or if they're restricted to a channel, fine. I don't have to go in and look. When just scattered amongst general conversation, though, with it's Thirsty Thursday and it's Tits Tuesday and it's Fishnet Friday.
You hate alliteration.
I really, really hate alliterative wording when it comes
Stan Lee would have been your worst nightmare, like Peter Parker.
Oh, no, I love Stan Lee, but also it's fine in its place. It doesn't work for me on a sexy basis because it's not sexy. It's fucking annoying.
I think you'll find that Reed Richards is very sexy, especially when he's played by Pedro.
I mean, Pedro Pascal, fine.
I love the way you're staring blankly into the distance now.
No, my over this, if I will, is because for me it cheapens everything. It makes me feel like your self-worth is not taken with any degree of credence here, because like why would you just post pictures of your taco in to all and sundry? However you earn the right to see that.
Well, I think the idea is that you want the adulation or the recognition or the fishing element of pulling people in to go, that is a nice looking taco. I think I would like to snack on that later. I think that's the idea.
That's the bit that leaves a really, pardon the pun, but leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because this is, I mean, to me, this is my opinion. I understand this is not a widely held view, perhaps. It's my opinion. Okay.
We can see whether it's a widely held view right now.
Well, we can, but I'm just saying I agree with you, and probably even more so to the point where I feel like it really takes anything sexy and special out of these things, these interactions.
I think it does. I think there's also the risk that it has in wider groups in terms of people's confidence. And I think it can really change dynamics.
Newbies running for the hills. Like, what the hell have I walked into?
Well, I absolutely get that, which is why. So, right. Only 12.8% people said that we'll share anything with everyone or anyone.
All right.
Okay. So then people said 32.6% said we only share sexy pics and nothing too graphic.
Okay. And that's nice. Sexy is nice, but
now,
yeah.
3.5% don't share pictures at all.
Okay.
Get that? They want to remain anonymous. Look at me. Anonymous. And then 51%, so just over 50%, say we'll share anything with select friends and partners. Okay. And I get that. And I think that's absolutely fair. I understand that approach.
Yeah, because you've got boundaries and then you've got safe spaces, and that's fine.
Now, we're about to move on to one of your other bugbears about the lifestyle.
Of course.
Which could be anything. It's about how much people spend per month on these.
This is such an interesting question. It really is.
So I gave 3 options in this one.
Oh.
Yeah, 3 options. Less than 50 quid.
What? Oh, are you talking, sorry, a month?
Per month.
Per month?
Yeah.
Per month?
Per month. Between 50 and 100 quid.
Right.
Or more than 100 quid.
More than 100 quid.
Now, what? You reckon it's more than 100 quid? Well, actually.
Oh, no, actually.
Oh, now that I've said, well, actually, you can't change your mind.
No, I'm going to maybe opt for the middle one. But maybe me personally is opting for the last one, because I think that's what we spend.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about actually going to events, it varies month to month depending on what we're doing, obviously. Yeah, but I would say it's still more than 100 quid for us.
I would agree.
But what I'd say is that meeting lifestyle friends and going on adventures is probably where the majority of our funds just fuck off out the window. But anyway, so 40.7% say they spend between 50 and 100 quid a month on lifestyle activities. 23.3% say they spend less than 50, and over 36% spend more than 100 quid per month. So I think this So if you just go, for example, to a social event once a month or once every other month, and you spend, I don't know, 40 quid doing that, then you might spend, I don't know, if you're looking at it from it's an average night out anyway for you, and that's what you'd be spending, then you might write off that expense. Maybe. So I can see how you might spend that lower end of the thing. Right. But if you're talking about actually adding on the cost of drinks throughout the course of a night, plus the cab getting there, the hotel or whatever, it's very easy to spend a large amount, as we've talked about. Are you assuming
that people are going to include things like the cost of joining sites in all this?
I think, well...
Because I would include that, because it's part of what we do, but you have access to things that you have to pay for.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at it from a holistic perspective, then you would add all this stuff up and then you divide it, per month or whatever, and then divide it by 12, and then you'd have a realistic expectation.
Yeah.
I suspect if we were to do that, we would probably exit the lifestyle immediately. And
will we alive?
Yes. How is
this is why we have no money.
That would probably be why we have no money now. So the next question, right?
Right.
Do you listen to any swinging podcasts?
Okay.
What do you think that was? What do you think people have said?
It's really sad, like 5 people.
Well, actually, it's quite good.
What are your options?
Yes, no, sometimes.
All right. Let's, oh gosh. I say sometimes is the biggest response.
Nope, you're actually wrong on this one.
Yes.
It is, yes, got a whopping 68.6%. Now, that's great, but I don't think they listen to ours.
Oh, no, probably not ours.
And then
listen to something.
Yeah, 20.9% said sometimes, and 10.5% said no. So I think, there is quite an audience out there, but equally, I want to remind people that the people that we've surveyed are members of our community, plus some other communities that we are in. So actually, the chances of them listening, even out of curiosity, is quite high.
Hello to our 7 listeners out there.
Thank you.
You.
Yeah, thank you very much, folks.
I hope you enjoy this.
So then I was feeling righteous, right? And you know what you do when you're righteous to have that righteous badge? You get tested. And then you can be better than everybody else because you've got your test results, assuming that they come back okay. So I said, how often do you get tested for STIs? And 72.1% said once a quarter, 10% said once a month, and then 8.1% said twice a year.
What was the last one? How many for the last
Twice
one?
A year was 8.1%.
And most people do every 3 months?
Once a quarter. And then we've got people that get tested. So we've got 5.8% saying we don't get tested, worryingly, but...
Maybe we don't do much.
But that's the thing. And then 3.5% get tested once a year.
Okay, well, that's better than nothing. But again, you don't know the frequency of people's interactions, I suppose. And if you've had a lull, maybe for 6 months or more, then you might think, why do I need to? But you'd still consider yourself E&M, even if you don't actively do anything.
Now, the next one, right, I foolishly said, are you into any kinks? Can you tell us about them? And the reason I did this was...
17 pages later.
Pretty much is because I didn't want to list out 37 varieties of kinks or even list out the 20 main ones because I thought people are just going to go other.
Of course not. Where's mine? It's missing.
And most of it came back as a bit of BDSM, accents, someone said, particularly the Welsh one that has been anglicised. Daddy Dom, good girl, define kinks, experimenting, Dom sub, BDSM, kink, lot of BDSM, and I like to insert a corn on the cob inside me and have my play partner nibble it clean.
I mean, that wouldn't work for you. You don't like corn.
No, rope play, bit of rope playing, bit of switchiness going on there, bondage, BDSM. So overall, a whole lot of stuff going on there.
Is there anything really out there that you're like, oh my God, what's this?
Cream pie pops up.
Cream pie pops up? Is that...
yeah. It's
cream
the new...
pie pop-up? Is that Pop-Tarts?
Water sports, degradation, cuckolding, rope play, impact plays, flogging, praise kink, open to try anything at least once. Nothing really. That's a good one. None, no. Needle and electric play. So there's quite a lot
that's
of
quite a
things in there. Which, of course, to you, gentle listener, I appreciate is like the shittest bit of me analysing this data. But what I can tell you is that people are pretty freaky and they like doing all sorts of stuff out there. So
yeah. Do you have a percentage of people who have said, yes, they do have a kink, but never mind what they are.
No, it's not really coming back in that sort of way that I can analyse it at this stage.
Okay.
So I need to go off and do some proper, like, nerding out white coat data research.
Tables,
I'll definitely need some pivot tables. Some coding. We need to do a bit of coding.
Conditional formatting.
I think people just got a bit sexy with me saying the word coding there. Anyways, do you typically play with the same people more than once? So 82.6% said, yes, we enjoy developing friendships.
Oh, that makes me feel really happy.
That's cool.
Because I love that bit of all of the stuff that we do.
Now, 12.8% said, yes, but we keep it to once or twice. So it's like not.
So you don't want to get too intimate.
Now, 1.2% said, no, it's one and done for me. I'm happy. And 3.5% said, yes, we want to develop poly relationships.
Ooh.
So what I'm seeing, and I think this might be quite reflective of the groups that we've got. I think had this survey gone wider, I think we'd see a broader range on this table, probably with I feel like a weatherman the way I'm describing this, but with sweeping winds coming in from the west to suggest that most people enjoy developing friendships and long-term
shower of polyamory.
Yes, with light stretches of polyamory lancing through the Upper Midlands.
Lancing through?
Yes.
What sort of weatherman are you?
A good one, apparently. So
whimsical one.
Yes. The avenues of time.
Social weather lancing through the British Isles, a scattering of polyamory.
With misty amounts of one and done sweeping through the nation, edging towards the south when it gets towards the...
Gosh.
There we go. But that's people's approach. And I think this is it reflects kind of what we see in the chat groups for the most part. I think people like, generally speaking, developing bonds with people, becoming friends and having like a friends with benefits.
I think that's a very strong element that we do see a lot in our groups.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Now, this is a bit where I'm going to hand it over to you because this is your favourite bit.
What do you mean it's my favourite bit? Is it
this
Pokemon?
is if you could change one thing about the swinging lifestyle.
Oh, you put this in.
I put it in there. Now I'm going to hand over the computer, sliding it over there. We go.
Okay.
So you've got to use that.
What's happening, people?
Okay, there we go. The chances of Mrs. H being able to navigate the Mac is slim. However.
No, I'm right in thinking I use two fingers.
Yes, you do use two fingers. So
oh, gosh.
What I've done is I asked that question.
Yes.
And I thought you would like to read out some of the answers.
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Go for it.
So one thing you could change about the swinging lifestyle, stigma.
The stigma. It's better than having to change the smegma, I suppose.
Oh, that's a very Red Dwarf blasphemy pass.
There you go. You enjoyed that.
Being more supportive of men.
I think that's fair.
Oh.
I think everyone should be more supportive of men.
This is broadly come under cost. Could be a bit cheaper for clubs and membership.
That's fair.
It is fair, but I also do recognise that, venues do need to charge money.
Yeah.
And they want to make it safe for us, right? So, but I agree. It's an expensive hobby. Let's have a look. The amount of free time that we have to spend in it. Oh, so agree with that. So many people really struggle to find that.
But I think it's not just the free time of looking for people. It's the free time of maintaining those relationships. Because as we know, a large chunk of people are looking for friends with benefits. And actually, you need to invest time and effort into maintaining those. Now, it's not always a high level, but it definitely can consume your spare time. Even if that's just a, hey, how's it going every now and then. I think that makes a huge difference.
Oh, this is a sad one. It's made me want to go find them and give them a hug.
Oh, but you can't. It's anonymous.
I know. Friendships disintegrating when they don't lead to play.
Oh.
It does make me feel a bit sad because, and I know that, some people do see it very much as though this is all extracurricular life and we want to keep that separate. But it makes me sad because you can make some fantastic friends.
I agree.
Attitude towards bi guys in a couple and the expectations that the female will be bisexual.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair.
100% agree that this is a very annoying assumption that is made in the lifestyle. And the attitude towards bi men, agree. Let's have a look. Pricing again. Yeah, societal views. This is an interesting one. Events being spread across so many different apps and sites that sometimes we're only discovering new events when it's too late.
Yeah, that happens.
It's like a saturation point, really.
Well, I think, and the problem is that if you look at, let's just take Swing Hub, which is one of the more popular sites,
Yeah.
as we've discovered thanks to the data here. There are so many events going on.
Yeah.
There's so many things happening and across the country that it's hard to know what's going on where. So, I think we try and support, sort of get through that by mentioning that we've got an event on in Fab, in Swing Hub, in Spicy, on Insta, on Twitter, on X, and pretty much like on our TikTok as well. Oh yes, TikTok. But it's fascinating in that we do all this stuff, and then we'll still get people going, "Oh, I didn't know you were having an event." And I'm like, "Well, we've mentioned it on the podcast. We've done all this." So it's really hard to reach people,
hard.
and it's even harder to get through people's emails as well. If you're going down that road, I think that's particularly challenging.
This is a very peculiar one, but I'm going to say it because it's really funny.
Okay,
Men with beards.
men with beards. Hey,
Oh, no.
that feels hurtful.
Because you've got a beautiful beard.
So thank you.
But I love the fact they put it in there as the thing that they change about the lifestyle. No men with beards. Absolutely get out.
Or do they mean men to have beards?
Oh. No, they don't want men with beards in the lifestyle. They can get in the bin, apparently.
Okay, fair enough.
Ooh, politics. Ooh, the politics and also the divide between apps and different communities.
Yeah, that's quite challenging. And
That's an interesting one, isn't it?
by the very nature of this whole thing, you're going to get people that swear by one community and not another. And then you're going to get people that do the same thing with apps. And, we've seen this time and again. I think, and even we've done it, I suppose, because if you have a bad experience at an event or if you had a bad experience in a particular group or with particular people, then you kind of move away from it. And then you talk about your experience with other people and they'll have different things that have happened to them. So you do end up finding your tribe, I suppose, to a certain extent, but the politics of it never go away. And I think the more people you add to anything, the more politics are going to be there and the more people are going to idiot. And I think it's interesting going online, I suppose, like Reddit, there's some quite strong divides about what people feel about the various sites. Like I know there's quite an anti-Swing Hub movement on Reddit.
Is there?
Yeah, there's certainly. Well, at least
go on Reddit because it's a dark web.
Well, I said there's an anti-Swing Hub movement. I think what I'm actually seeing is one or two people that are very vocal being anti-Swing Hub. A lot of people recommend Fab, but again, I don't know whether it's because Reddit looks like an antiquated system, and therefore they are used to Fab, so that's what they know and that's what they do. And so rather than jumping over to Swing Hub or Spicy or whatever, they'd rather bitch about it in that little space. But yeah, I agree. The politics can make it incredibly difficult.
Agreed. This is a funny one. The amount of time wasters. So they like the idea, but they've suddenly forgotten to tell the wife. Or the dog gets poorly suddenly.
That's fair. I mean, I think there is a reality to this, that life happens.
Of course, but forgot to tell the wife. Sorry.
But I think there is something about like communicating with people in the right way. The people that have not brought it up with their other half, that's shocking and shouldn't happen. I think those sort of time wasters are absolutely a pain in the ass. But people where they're having real life issues should be apologetic, should be prompt with their update and let you know what the deal is, and should try and say, "Oh, I'm sorry this has happened. Love to meet you at some other time. I can't do it now because of X, Y, and Z." And be honest. I think that's important.
All right, here's one that might pique your interest then.
All right, then.
And I know you've got strong thoughts on this one. The clique mentality that seems to form.
Alyssa. So, right, okay. I'm.
Firstly, what do you think they mean by that?
So I think the groups that form, like when you go to, for example, an event and there's a group of people hanging around together, and that can feel absolutely
difficult to penetrate.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's difficult to penetrate.
They're in a little form circle.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't possibly go because they all seem to know each other.
Now, we've been in various sides of this coin. It's a many-sided coin.
Yeah.
Say a dice, maybe.
20-sided dice.
20-sided die.
Yeah.
But just a couple of the examples. We've approached groups and found a way in and found that what we thought was a group are just a bunch of people sitting together that didn't even know each other.
Right.
So there is that. That's a thing that can happen. There's also the group of friends that go to events and stick together and don't want anything to do with anybody else. In fact, we've been to social events. They go as a band. We've been to social events where literally the whole thing is that they are a traveling group of people that just want to go to an event to host an event together. And if anyone fits their sort of whatever it is that they're looking for, then they'll bring them into the fray. But at the exclusivity of everyone, of everyone else. Now that level of cliquiness or clickiness, whichever way you go, I find really frustrating. And I think particularly as a host, part of your duty and due diligence is to try and engage with people and bring them into all the different forays out there. However, equally, you can't bust that person into a group that's already been tightly knit. So that's going to be, that group needs to do that work. There are people that I absolutely adore that are great at bringing people into groups and that spot people. My perfect example is the two of us. We've been on the show before, the Toofus. And they, not us two, because we're shit at it, but the two of us, they're really good at spotting people that are sat outside in a group or that might be sat by themselves and look like they need a bit of support, and they will bring them into the fold.
And we don't know how to get into what is clearly an established conversation, and we're like, what do we, we're new, we're scared. And I know you people have left, events before, not necessarily ours, but events generally, because they just feel like it's impossible.
Yeah, and I think that those sorts of people that bring people in are fantastic. I also think there is a bit, you have to be brave, and it pains me to say it because I'm probably the worst person to do it, but, if we go to an event, actually going up and going, hey, my name is, or hello, can I join your group, please? It's quite a step. It takes you right back to those childhood memories of not being picked for football or whatever it was. Yeah.
Oh my God.
There is that sort of element of fear of rejection and
not
being
fitting in.
Yeah, and being the last one to become part of a team and stuff. But actually, 9 times out of 10, once you get in there and you've had that conversation, then it's pretty good, right?
All right.
What else we got on there?
Right. This is another controversial one. It's not very diverse in ethnicity, race, or colour.
No, it's not. It's
great discussion.
It's not, and I think.
Why do you think that?
I think so. This comes back a bit to the clickiness. I think that people see groups of people, and they assume that people of different backgrounds and ethnicities aren't welcome.
Right.
And I would say nothing could be further from the truth. Certainly with our groups, I can't speak for all groups. But everyone is absolutely welcome. But our ability as our influence only goes so far. And if we're with like-minded people, the chances of us bringing in a large level of diversity is reduced. So I think it's quite hard to get people to join in if they're worried about being the only person of a certain background or whatever in a group. Now, I think I wouldn't let that stop you from going to an event. I would encourage everyone to come along and try their hand at going to clubs, social events and whatever. And I would say that within our events and other events that we've been to, for the most part, we haven't seen massive pushbacks against any background, any approach to life. But that's not to say that doesn't exist out there. But I think predominantly, and it wasn't a question that I put in there because I felt that people would be uncomfortable answering the sort of background stuff, the ED&I pieces that sit there, particularly given the wonderful situation out there in the real world where DEI and ED&I are frowned upon. But I would expect to see that if you looked out and went to most clubs, that you're going to get very, very few people that are outside, generally white, outside middle-aged, and outside generally heterosexual couples. Heterosexual couples, I got there in the end. So I think as a result, if that's what you see in the images, if that's what you see in the media, if that's what you see portrayed, and certainly when it comes to media, we're not even at the point where swingers are portrayed properly, but if you don't see representation there, then that'll inherently put you off. And I think when ethnicity, I'll get there in a fucking end, I tell you, is if it's sold as a sexualization, for example, like, I don't know, Black Friday or whatever the fuck it is that various clubs run.
Something very different for me.
Yeah, I know. It's not the sale you thought you were going to get. I think when you sexualize people for that, it makes it really hard to integrate those people into your events because they're almost marketed as a commodity rather than being marketed as a human being. Now, you might disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine, but I struggle with those types of events because I don't like to see people treated unfairly, and this kind of exclusivity for that is a real challenge to me. I would rather everyone be welcome. Bi guys, straight people, bi women, lesbians, gays, whatever. whatever approach, I don't mind. I'd rather you come in when you're able to be I'm going to hate this, authentic self. Yeah, but it's true. That's so important because we encourage as a group, like each other to be our authentic selves. It's like, hey, like you get to be sexy and you get to be open, you get to wear nice underwear and you get to do this, this and this and live out your fantasies.
So authenticity is very
core to this. Yeah. But I think there are a number of limiting factors, and I think you could also start taking into account the socio-economic factors, the money, the cost, the wealth or whatever that sits behind being able to go to some of these events, that sort of stuff. And also the locations of where these are held.
You're going to start getting the wheel of privilege out in a minute.
At some point. Oh, you know I will. It's always to hand. But there we go. That would be my take on that thought.
All right. Thank you. The behaviour of the wanking dead.
Oh, yeah. Do you know, it's interesting, right? We haven't encountered the wanking dead for a while.
No, because we haven't really been to an event where any have been there.
Yeah. So certainly the wanking dead haven't been there.
No.
Now, the single guys, which are normally the association with the wanking dead, the people that sort of stand there watching you with their cock in hand just wanking. Yeah. We haven't really... In fact, the last time I remember seeing that, I think, was when we went to...
Angels, for me.
No. When we went to the States and we went to with the Sapphics and the club... Trapeze. And there were a few...
There were a few there.
There were a few. Now, they weren't in the couples area. They were just out and about wanking. So
they weren't allowed in the couples area.
No. So I think... I don't know how much of a problem they are, but again, this could relate to, for my experience, I just don't see them. But I think, working with single guys that, have great morals, have great approaches to this, have a great attitude, I think is so important because when it comes to events and couples where the male half is, is respectful and stuff is really, really important and really key to sort of eliminating that thing and dealing with it when it happens. Like, if you see that happening at one of our events, I'd really hope, especially if it's not social, that you'd come and tell us. And
oh, God, can you imagine?
we can deal with it and we can get security involved and all that sort of stuff, or have a word with someone.
Here's an interesting one. Body confidence issues that we probably all have about ourselves, but they do seem amplified.
Yeah, there's honestly, I think,
It's you under a microscope, really, doesn't it? And it really, really does make you want to crawl into a hole sometimes.
Yeah, it does. I think body confidence, ability to perform, all of that stuff can really get in your head, and it's tremendously difficult to function sometimes when you've got that worry. And I know, I'm constantly trying to be better than what I was yesterday, but that's hard and it's draining. And if you don't feel like you're making a difference as well while you're on that journey, it can be heartbreaking knowing that you've got an event coming up and be really like freezing about the whole thing. So yeah, I'd gladly, if we could get rid of that. Although, would we end up with room after room of arrogant assholes that have no qualms about whatever? Maybe.
Oh, don't go to that room, dear. So it's the wanking dead room. Okay, so let's have a look. So there's a lot of very, 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 very similar ones which we've gone through. But let's just pick one or two more and then move on. So let's have a look. Luton.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, I really love penthouse playrooms, but Luton itself is not my most favourite of places.
Poor Luton, it's in room 101. Ooh, all the different micro groups that only serve to divide the lifestyle.
So the cliques then, basically.
Like the clique.
Yeah, I think that's a similar sort of thing.
Locality of places to be, like clubs.
Yeah, we could do with a nice club near us. It's not happening, I think.
And then pretty much the last one is gatekeeping, people having opinions and judging others on how they do E&M. So we're not talking about people having opinions about the fact that they are E&M.
You're not a swinger unless.
Yes, it's the gatekeeping thing. That's an interesting
one. I mean, early on, we encountered people that said that to us, like, you aren't swingers unless you drop trow and start fucking the second you get into a party, or unless you're full swap all the time. And you know what you do? EDM, electronic dance music, E&M, however you like, really. I think as long as you're clear about what you're doing and people understand your approach, if you're going into a situation, then it's fine. I think labels are really important, but at the same point, it's also really important to be able to enjoy your experience and not worry about whether you're doing it the right or wrong way. Now, everyone has a different approach and everyone will talk to you about things in a different way. Different podcasts and different presenters or whatever and different social media people will all say, this is how you do it. But really what they're saying is this is how they do it, or this is how we do it. And that's been, I think, our approach. And yeah, sure, we can be a bit snooty about other people's approaches.
We can have our own opinions, but
I think it's really important not to gatekeep on this front. So I'm going to start wrapping up now.
Okay.
I think I'm going to do one more question, and then I think
right.
we'll do a bit of a follow up at some point, and we'll look into some more data. But how do you think swinging is conveyed in the media?
I mean, I'm assuming you've got a great big box there of negatively.
Well, I've got positive, got not sure, negative, and improving, but there's a way to go.
I like to think that people share the view that it is improving, but there's a long way to go.
You're right. Nearly 63% of people.
Because I think there is a general view that it's better than it used to be.
I mean, it couldn't have got any worse, but it is moving along.
It is progressing, but it does have a long way to go. You're right.
And I think 25.6% said negative, and 10.5% said not sure, and like a couple of people said, yeah, it's positive. So what I would say is that I think it is getting better. The fact that we've had things like Wanderlust, the TV show, we've had Open House, as much as I have my problems with it, I think the fact that it is getting into the media is a good thing.
Some pretty good films out there sometimes that do portray, open relationships in quite a healthy way.
I think Polly is probably further along the journey than swinging.
Agreed.
But I think that's probably an easier one to grasp in many ways.
It is more palatable for people, isn't it?
Yeah,
right? Because I think it's more entwined with things like emotion and feelings.
Oh, they love each other, so it's
like,
all right.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's actually really wholesome.
Yeah.
Rather than, you just want to fuck someone.
Filthy sex people in. Yeah, that sort of that sort of approach, I think, is more palatable for people. I do think that the red tops continue to do stories that are sensationalist, but I get that, they're even more desperate to sell papers, sites, or whatever. So there is for every one good story that we've seen, and we've been in some okay ones, I think there are 10 sensationalist, I fucked 200 men and did this and whatever, and it's just it's really, really hard.
You get, the likes of the big festivals in the summer, like Swingfields, and then it all just erupts into a media furor as usual. Like, look at these filthy swingers, they have to take over a field, and there's children probably living near the fields. Think of the children.
I think the other thing that mixes in with this is actually that OnlyFans and other content creation kind of mixes in the balance and really sways opinion on people. And it's kind of because essentially you are having sex for money, or you're performing for money. That's even harder to grasp than people just having sex with other people, I think.
For fun.
Yeah, for fun.
Oh my God.
And enjoyment. And but it definitely muddies the waters, and it definitely makes it a more difficult pill for some people to swallow. So when you see people that are out, because there are people that are out and will do interviews and stuff, particularly in the red top papers, like the Sun, Mirror, whatever, Mail and things. They often, the people that are out, are OnlyFans or content creators as well, because it's a bit of a drive towards their site. So the story ends up being unnecessarily salacious because they're trying to get people to buy their content. And that really, for me, takes the message away from the swinging element of it, the sort of exploring things with your partner, having a fun time, building connections, all the good wholesome stuff that doesn't get mentioned is often swept under the rug because the main point is that they slept with 8 people a night on this and that, and they did this, but also they're selling their body on OnlyFans. Nothing wrong with OnlyFans. I just think when it comes to the public perception, it makes it a much more difficult sell to kind of get people on board with some of this stuff. Keep it separate, why not, eh? So, going to call it to a close here. Hope you've enjoyed our rambling through the data. Some of it has been quite fascinating. I've quite enjoyed.
By no means exhaustive as well. It's just a starter for a discussion more than anything. But some interesting ones there.
I think so, and I think it was interesting just kind of seeing what the community's like when they started, their approach to this.
How things have changed.
Yeah, and it would have been helpful if we'd have done this survey 6 years ago, and then we'd have been like, hey, look how things have moved on. But
We'll tune in 6 years' time, folks, when we do our next survey. We'll do a time capsule, shall we?
maybe we just do an annual survey and we just like add to it and just build on it and have a hive of data that we can that will turn out 40,000 episodes a week for us. That will be fantastic without us having to touch a button.
In 6 years' time, it'll be like AI Mr. H.
In 6 year time,
Still rambling on about similar lifestyle.
I'll still be rambling.
I'll tell you another thing that grinds my gears.
Yeah, I'll be on my 87th pop version of DuckTales, and
I won't have finished my Pokédex by then.
No, you still won't.
Tell you that much.
You're never going to catch them all. Never.
New one came out today.
Oh dear, what, a new Pokemon?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's wrap this up then swiftly before we've talked data a lot. The last thing people need to hear is about Pokemon, but if you do...
Or maybe it's the best thing they want to hear right now.
The best there ever was.
Yeah.
Mrs. H, do your thing.
Well, thank you for hopping into our bed.
Bunch of people sent in some funny stories to us as part of the thing. So I thought we'd read out like maybe one or two, and then we can share them like going forwards. Like maybe this will be a thing for like at the end of it.
One each.
We can have one each.
There we go.
So I'm going to read this one. So I once made a lady squirt in an orgy. Problem was, I was to the side of her and didn't know it was going to be that much or that powerful. I turned around to find I'd hosed a lot of people. They all looked at me, but carried on afterwards.
Oh my word! Is there another one under there that
there is another one. I wouldn't read names because obviously we don't.
I'm going to read names. Oh, okay. Right, here we go. Last January, am I allowed to say the club name?
I wouldn't.
We were at a club.
There we go.
The club closed early because of severe snowfall. The management were worried about the members and the staff getting home safely, so they instructed staff to go through the club to tell people they just had 10 minutes to leave. When we heard the exit announcement, we just happened to be mid-orgy. Being the hardy souls that we are, and after walking through reception half naked, some of us were still having a fondle in the snow outside, and we took a couple back to our car, which then inadvertently turned into our first dogging session. It was a fantastic night, seeing a bunch of swingers out in the snow, still getting dressed and still carrying on and groping each other in the snow. It's not every day you see that on high street. Oh, I love that. Oh, brilliant.